Alrighty, how's it going, everybody? 01 back again. And it was requested in one of the comments on the previous videos that I do a quick overview of everything that I'm trying to do right now, so that way people aren't getting lost. And that's fair. So we'll go and do that. So I guess we kind of start with from the beginning, right? So this little room right here was the first one we made. So this is why we still have our water system in there, and we have our food over in here as well, right? So this has got breathable atmosphere, and I put a bed in there just, for fun. But, so that's all that is, and then this was my first airlock ever. And then right out here, before I expanded, I put these things, and I made sure that I spaced them out, so that way I had room to put on these stackers. And then sort of started building out from there. And then what I did next was with the roof that I put on here, just ignore that front part, it wasn't there at the beginning. I built all of these. So, and honestly, I should probably try to cool this down. I don't want things to catch on fire. Yeah, it's 158, 186, 204, 208, 207 in here. It's actually not that bad, but I think it's because I have that vent over there. But that vent wasn't there originally, so I think it got up to like 500 degrees in here at one point. But, so this was my power, right? And then when I started, I just had, little batteries right here. And I think the first one was actually right here. So I expanded those and I built up the batteries a little bit bigger, I should say. And I think the next thing that I built was this. It was originally not enclosed in all of this, but that was kind of the intention. But there's the furnace. And that's kind of what led me to the first part of all of this. So if you take a look at this, this pipe right here just kind of shares atmosphere between that room up there and the room in here. Yeah, so it just goes up here. So it's really just like pressure equalization and stuff. So, okay, but we have our fuel coming in here, right? And then we have our exhaust coming out here through this, what color is that? I forgot what, hang on. Khaki, there you go. Okay, so that goes out here, and it goes up here, and over there, and then down there, right? So we're gonna go down over there, and we'll see kind of where all of this ends up. So from nearly the beginning, so this is where it comes through, right? So then it comes over here. And we also have this over here, right? So originally this part right here wasn't there. So this would just go over here and it would collect over into this extra large tank, right? So this is all of my exhaust gases since very nearly the beginning. Not quite the beginning, but there's a lot in there. And the reason for that is because, whoops, that is not the right one. Go to the next one, there we go. Okay, so we have 16 megapascals of pressure in there at 887 degrees. So it's all just kind of chilling in there, doing its thing. I noticed that there's no volatiles in there. Interesting. Okay. So I've been collecting all of this exhaust gas for a while. So that goes over there, and you can see it also comes off of there. So we're going to go and look up there. And that is going to be connected to these. So these are my drills. They're currently not working because I have, a lot of ores. But this is my combustion centrifuge, right? So the combustion centrifuge needs fuel. So the fuel is coming up through here and going in. And then that's going over to the rocket, which, fuels that. But this also creates exhaust. So that exhaust goes down there and it gets thrown into here. Now, the exhaust coming out of here is pretty hot. So I was hoping that it would kind of keep the temperature inside of there raised up pretty high. Okay. Let's see, what else? Then once I had all of this up and running, so all of my drills and everything, I had to figure out a place to put all of the ores. Now, originally, I had set up some silos, or tried to set up some silos, but I didn't like the fact that the only way that you could sort of see how much was in each silo was to look at the little display on the front and see what it was, and that would give you a number out of 600, which doesn't really help, right? So I made these. Now these, basically the same thing, except you can actually see into here. Now I don't know how many stacks I can put in here, but each one of these is 50 iron. So to give you an idea of how much that is, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 wide over here. So each layer is about 36. We'll say between 30 and 36, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably 6 layers. So that's 180 stacks right there, ish in there. And so that's gives you an idea of just how much I've got. So 180 times, 50 is, what is that, 5,400? So I've got 5,400 iron just kind of chilling in here. And I can see it, which is great. So this still has a way to fill up, right? So this whole thing can probably hold, I don't know, 300, maybe 400, somewhere in there, stacks. So not as much as a silo, but you have a better indication of how much you've got. And then same thing over here with this. This has probably got, I don't know, 120 in here, I think. This one probably around 90. And then we've got, that's silicon, so I need more silicon. We got a couple of gold in there. Now, the other thing about this is the conveyors that are down there, or not conveyors, chutes, right? So they go down even farther and then over and then up. And I think that's 12 chutes, somewhere in there. So whatever we have in here, add another 12 stacks to it, and that's what it takes to get to this point. And you can see we've got, a little bit of lead in here, uranium. We don't have enough to fill up all of these things, but we do have stacks of uranium in there. Low on cobalt as well, low on nickel, low silver. We have a decent amount of silver, and then this is gold. So I don't know. I could turn, the drills back on and just get more stuff, but I would have to start like really processing all of the iron here. Now, there's another way that I can make this even more compact, and that is to take each of these things and smelt them into a 500 iron bar, and then throw the iron bars into another chute like this. So that would be a way to compact that even further, which I might do, I might not do, I don't know. But before I did that, I had this room built. So this is my atmospherics room, and this is where I store, initially stored my gases, and this is also where I have all of my refills here. So we can put that in there, and then these are usually automatically set up. Are we low on oxygen? No, we've got megapascals, so what's going on here? 17,500. Is it still, honestly, it's probably still trying to get up to pressure. Yeah. Yeah, it's just very, very slow because this thing is not the fastest in the world. But it works, so. And then we have the brown line here. Now, the brown line is like the khaki line in that it's a waste gas line, right? The only difference is the khaki line is hot, brown line is not. And so then we have all of our filters over here to filter out all the gases out of this line. It's not really very much in there, and looks like it's almost done anyways. But yeah, so that's where all of that's going, and then we have, oh, that has to be filled. Am I missing a liquid canister? Hang on. Yeah, I gotta put that in there real quick. So, hang on a sec. I gotta drink something anyways, so we'll get that taken care of first. All right, good to go. Yeah, so ignore what I'm doing right now. This was made much, much later. I just need to grab that out of there. First, I need to make sure it's empty. Ew. Is that thing not working right now? Oh, right. Yeah, let me just turn that on. That should suck everything out of here. And then we can turn that on as well to make sure I don't overload that pipe right there. I can make this go even faster by closing that. Okay, so I just need to drain all of the gas out of this liquid canister. So there we go. Okay. So there's that, and then this thing I can probably take back with me. They're both empty, but okay, so this is just about pulled a full vacuum in here. Doesn't need to pull a full vacuum, so that's fine for now. Okay, so we're gonna head back. And so the reason why we need that liquid canister in there is because without that being in there, the amount of liters of liquid nitrous oxide that I can store in just in, well, these 3 pipes right here and this thing is not very much. So by doing that, so there was originally 16 liters in there, and by putting this in there, it splits it in half. So now there is just a few. Okay, so filters, taking all of our waste gases, and also I have ice crusher in here. So you take ice, you mine it, whatever, you throw it in here, you crush it down, it brown goes into the brown line, and then whatever it is that was in the ice, it then gets filtered, sorted out. And now originally what I had in here were tanks, right? And I think they were actually in this block space right here, and they would just fill into that tank. And then I figured, you know what? I can do bigger tanks. So I have everything here now going out to the end here, and then I have pressures on all of my stuff. Now these are direct connections to the larger tanks outside, so we'll follow that next. All right, so if we follow these lines out, they're all color-coded here. So they go under this, and they go up here, and they get stored into each of these color-coded tanks. And you can see these are much, much, much bigger. These are also insulated tanks, which means that whatever temperature they were originally is what temperature they should still be. So that's good to go. All right, so this is my gas storage now. And I have little places where I can fill up, you know, larger, well, smaller, but portable tanks in case I need them anywhere. Okay. So we've got that. And then I think the next thing I did after that was to build a greenhouse. I had a much smaller one at the beginning. And I think I built that shortly after all of this. And then I expanded it. So now the greenhouse is much larger. So what I needed in there was water, and I also needed a suitable atmosphere in there as well. So I have gray for carbon dioxide, black for nitrogen, and white for oxygen. And then they go in there, and then they get mixed and filled into there. I suppose we can go in here real quick. All right, so it is a balmy 25 degrees C in here, and it is breathable, I believe, in here, I think. I'm not going to test it, though. But it's good for all the plants. So plants are all growing here, doing their thing. Everything is thriving. Yeah, thriving. And then this is all automated here, so soybeans are being planted and harvested automatically. And then I can set up more of these Harveys up here to do those. And then all of this automation is controlled through this single IC right here. So that's that. And then we have our storage, cooking, processing, canning, really. And we have these little things over here for making other things. And then this is our filter to take out any pollutants that might be in here, which hopefully there are none. Nope. So that is our current balance of gases in here. and I'd say it's fairly well balanced, so that's good. We have a lot of food for the plants, which is the CO2. Pressure is 72, which is pretty good. So yeah, everything is doing fairly well here. And I've got all my extra seeds, some fries in here, in case I want to eat some fries one of these days. Seeds, and I also have medicines that I'm making in here as well. So there's that. So new greenhouse, and then of course to help balance off or balance out, because these things are going to eat CO2 and release oxygen. So I need to balance that without going into crazy, gas mechanics here. So these mushrooms eat oxygen and pump out CO2. So they are providing the food for the plants, and then these plants are providing the food for those. So it's a wonderful system. And of course, that is in a box up there because the mushrooms need darkness. So, and that's all good. And I'm just kind of waiting for those to kind of rot away. I don't know how long that's going to take though, so I'm just kind of leaving them there. Sort of an experiment going on. And then this is our huge water tank. And then this is just connecting directly into here. So whatever temperature is in here is what will be spread eventually into the water tank. So all of the water should be at 25 degrees C as well, which of course prevents it from boiling or freezing. So that's good there. All right. So that was the greenhouse. Okay. And then what I needed to do was find a better option for ices. So that's when I built the rocket. So the rocket is not complete. Like I can fit like another 2 or 3 sections on there. So it's just a little short rocket, just doing a little bit of stuff. And then I have most of the rocket is controlled via this, and then the rest of it is controlled via these things here. So that is our fuel. So we'll just fill this in. Get it up to 5,000 again, send it off again, should be good. Good. All right. So that's all I have to do, and then it should come back on its own with ices. So that's good there. We have nothing in here, so everything was sorted from the previous one. So I don't have to watch that anymore because it's all kind of running by itself. All right. Then, once I had all of this stuff built, I was running into issues with power. So originally, I had that set up there, and then that is our solid generator, and that just runs off of coal. So set up a bunch of coal, throw it in there, we would get power to our batteries, right? And then I was kind of running low on coal, so that's why I have so much ore in there. And actually, you know what? We're going to turn these things back on, because I can. Besides, I'm going to need more silicon soon anyways. Okay, so these will make the dirty ores. The dirty ores will go up here, get stacked here, and then we'll have full 50 stacks going through here, over into here, and down into here. So this is kind of where it goes, and then that feeds down into there, out there, up here, and into here. So when this is ready, this is self-running as well. So I just gotta, basically hit the start button, and then it's good to go. All right. So we'll let that go. So I was running into an issue with power, right? And so I was looking for different ways of doing it. The fuel generator was actually a later addition. So the very first thing that I wanted to try to do was to make the Stirling engines. And that's when this whole section back here started becoming a thing. And this has been rebuilt a few times already, because each time that I got it working, I found out that it didn't work as I wanted it to. So these things right here, given the temperature of the gases that I have in there, the little khaki tank back there, we're not producing very much energy given the pressure differential and the temperature differential between the waste gases going in and the atmosphere around it. So it was suggested to me that I watch Cows Are Evil's video. I think it was episode 10 of his Terraforming Mars series, where he goes into his Stirling engines, and basically what he does is He takes a bunch of nitrous and hydrogen, mixes them, explodes it, stores the excess heat into a tank, and then feeds that heat into these things, and then they ran like crazy. And then he had them just in regular planetary atmosphere. And maybe if you're putting in 4,000 degree, stuff, it will run that fast. But for what I've got, which is not even close to that hot, being in normal atmosphere does not work. Well, I shouldn't say that it doesn't work. It doesn't produce very much. I think I was under 5 watts for 4 of these things, running off of just the stuff that I had in here. So in here, the khaki pipes. And then I tried enclosing these things, and I found that the higher the pressure was on the cold side, which is where the fan is, right? So it's just an open, just think of that as a big open pipe, right? Big passive vent. The higher the pressure was over here, the lower the pressure in our tank. Now, this is our working gas, which is what basically transfers the heat from one side to the other. So hot side is over here, and then you've got, actually let me just go in there so we can take a look at it. It'd be easier. Because these Stirling engines are not the most straightforward things. All right, so we have our hot side. So think of this like this, right? So we've break this thing in half, right? This way. So we've got our hot side over here. We've got our cold side over here. So it's the first thing that you have to keep in mind. And then we have a hot side going in and a cooler hot coming out, right? So as the hot goes in here, that gas or that heat gets transferred across this, which is the working mechanism, which then spins this thing, which spins that thing, and that is the little piece that, actually generates the electricity. Now, I understand this is just an artistic representation of what it is, but if this was real, that is how this would work. And then this is just a bunch of different valves, right? So you put the hot into here, it expands the valve, but then you do it like in a certain order, I guess. So this one will push, and then this one will push, and then that one will push. And then as it gets around to the other side, like that one will go down, that one will go down, that one will go down, and then like it'll push in again or whatever. And that creates a circular motion, which spins this fan, and then the fan spins this guy right here, which generates the power. So we have hot end, less hot end, right? And then if we take a look at this, we have the hot side temperature and we have the cool side temperature. Now, I'm not sure if that relates to this pipe and that pipe, or if it relates to this half versus this half. Although we could check it, right? So that's 54.3, that's 54.4, and then in here is 53.6. So they're basically, everything is the same temperature right now, which is why the thing is not working. Even if I were to try to turn it on, we would get nothing. And so if I can cool the air in here, that makes the cool side colder, which then increases the thermal difference between these two, which then makes those run a little bit faster. And then if I can increase the temperature over here and then exhaust this, so that way the cooler gas doesn't go in here and cool out the hot gas, at least that's my thought anyways, we can take that gas and then evacuate it over here and then run it through, I don't know, somewhere. And then what I would like to do is to maybe take some nitrous and fuel and then ignite it. So that way we can get, that nice 4,000 degree heat or whatever, and then run that through heat exchanger through here, so we can take that 4,000 degrees of the exploded gases and heat this up a lot. So that way when it goes to rejoin our khaki large tank over here, it'll increase the overall temperature in there. And then with a higher temperature on our exhaust gases, we get a higher pressure or a higher temperature differential between these two sides, which again creates more heat. So you want to try to create as much pressure differential as you can. I don't know if this side versus this side really matters that much, the hot side versus the less hot side. But it's, I don't know, it's a thing. So my working gas is nitrogen, which is why we have black. However, the best gas is, oh hey, there we go, rocket's coming back, nice. The best gas to use is hydrogen, right? So my working gas efficiency, that's based on the gas specifically, is 12%, which is the second highest, so nitrogen is a decent gas. However, if you went with hydrogen, it would be 15%. And then your, I don't know the exact math of all of this. So your pressure, that first line there that says pressure, that is the pressure of your working gas. If that ever exceeds 11 megapascals, this thing will blow up and it'll take out a lot of stuff around it. So you never, ever, 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 ever want to even get close to 11 megapascals for your working pressure, or your working gas pressure. Then you have your hot side temperature, which is either the hot input, and then you have your cool side, which is either the hot output or the cool side entirely. But I think that might be the hot side and the cold side. I think that has to do with the hot and then less hot. And then the environment operating efficiency is the hot half of the Stirling engine versus the cold half, right? No, I don't know if that's exactly the way it works, but then we have internal pressure differential efficiency. So each of these things is going to reduce the amount of total power this thing can put out, right? So if your environmental operating efficiency is 100%, then you multiply your output by 1, right, which keeps it the same. However, you can never get over 100%, so every percent below that, you're reducing your total output. And then you can see the internal pressure differential efficiency is very low. It says 0.4 centi%, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but, you know, whatever. So that's going to drop your power production very, very quickly. And then your working gas efficiency, of course, is going to bring that out as well, or bring it down. So, through all of the different iterations of trying to get this thing to work, I've found that the higher and colder you can keep your pressure, your external pressure to the Stirling engine, so your cold side basically, the better your percentages are in here and the more power you create. And then, of course, the higher the pressure is out here, the less pressure you have in there, which means you can put a higher pressure into here, which means, I don't know if that means more power or more heat, but I'm going to try it and we'll see how that works. Okay, so, and then what we're planning on doing here is we're going to be using these condensers and evaporators. So this is the evaporation chamber, that's the condensation chamber. And we're going to use nitrous oxide as our working fluid here, fluid/gas, right? So that is why I needed to make that room over there that we were in earlier, because I need a lot of liquid nitrous oxide to fill this thing. Because I think the more that we have, the more temperature supply, what is the right word for this? Think of it like a pool, right? We could either have like a little kiddie pool that can get really, really cold, but it heats up really, really fast, or we could have an Olympic-sized swimming pool, which we can also make really, really, really cold, but it takes a lot longer to heat back up, right? So I'm thinking the more liquid I have in here, the better. So that's why I'm trying to make all of the liquid nitrous oxide, so that way I can, you know, do something with it. So liquid nitrous oxide will be in this loop right here, which goes around to the other side here, as you can see. And the gaseous liquid nitrous oxide, or gaseous nitrous oxide, would go into this loop right here, which goes through here and connects, well, will connect into there. And then this over here is going to be where our heat is exchanged. So whatever heat is made in here, or in this particular case, whatever cool or cold is produced in here, will then be shared with the entire room. So once again, because we're heating such a large volume with such a small volume of stuff, we want to make sure that we have a lot of pressure in there, which means we need a lot of nitrous oxide. Now, I still don't know 100% how these things work, so I'm still working on that, but I'm hoping that it'll work. So what's going to happen is, as the gaseous, hopefully cool, gaseous nitrous oxide goes into here. This will drop the pressure down inside of there. So we've got too hot, we've got too cold, and we got kind of in the middle here. So this will cool, well, sorry, hang on. Oh wait, no, this will have this go in. Yeah, so that's the liquid input, right? So this will be hopefully cool, cold, liquid, right? And then as that is turned back into gas, it'll cool down even more to a crazy extent, and then it'll turn back into gas, right? Now that gas, once it's heated up or equalized with the room temperature, right? It'll then flow back through here into here to be compressed again. Now, as you compress the gas, it'll increase the temperature a lot, right? So we'll probably have 150, 200, 250 degrees Celsius liquid nitrous oxide in here, right? So we take our heat exchange connection on the backside there and we run it through all of those medium radiators right there, right? So that will hopefully cool all of that liquid way, way, way down. And that gives us our cold liquid, which then goes over into here, which then when we, gasify it, becomes even colder, which hopefully will help keep this room extremely cold. So that's the idea here. But once again, in order to do that, I need a lot of nitrous oxide and liquid nitrous oxide. I mean, granted, I probably could do it with gas, now that I think about it. But nitrous oxide is incredibly difficult to work with in Stationeers. So what I've found is the easiest way to work with it, so that way you don't, kill pipes or anything. Hang on, let me just organize this. The easiest way to deal with that so that we don't kill pipes is to keep it in a liquid form. So that way it makes it easier to transport, because as soon as the pressure drops a little tiny bit on that liquid nitrous oxide, it turns into a gas, and then it'll, increase the pressure inside the pipes and then eventually burst the pipes. Now the other thing is you can't make it too cold, because then it'll turn into a solid and then it'll also burst pipes. So we have to find this little balancing point in here. And the other issue that I was running into is that whenever I'm working with liquid nitrous oxide, these liquid canisters can also hold gas, and they can only handle 6 megapascals. So if this is filled with liquid nitrous oxide and it gets too hot and it starts to gasify inside of there and that pressure exceeds 6 megapascals, it blows up, right? So that is why we are trying to keep the temperature in here to 0, because that'll keep it in its liquid stage, or liquid state, I should say. And then that gives me time to move it from one place to another. So I don't know. Hopefully it works. I don't know. But we should have our rocket back with more ices. Okay, that isn't even close to filling up yet. We have 144 stacks. Not bad. So we'll turn that on. This controls all of my sorters. And then we'll just open that up. And then all of the ices will be sorted into full stacks. So that's the stackers over there. So we sort down here. We stack up here. We get full stacks going into the silos. And then once again, with these silos, the only way that you can actually tell what's inside of them is by looking at the silo count, which doesn't really give you a good, indication of how much is actually in there. So like 36 out of 600, is that like down here or is that like up here? Because if you think about it, then we have that much more to fill, right? So that's what, like 1/18th or something? Maybe a 14th somewhere in there. So divide this thing up by 14, and that is how much ice we have in there. So it's, I don't know, not much. All right, so we'll send this thing off again after we give it some more fuel. We'll give it 10,000 fuel. Actually, I don't know how much this thing can handle. Hopefully it doesn't explode or anything. But there is 6,000. And of course, the fuel that this uses up is a lot. 7,500, 8,000, 9,000, and it's starting to slow down, which means that I'm running low on fuel. There we go, 10,000. So we'll send that off. That should give us a fair amount of ice. All right, so now we need to go down here and start making up some more gases. And so with the silos up there, each of those goes down here into a digital valve here, which controls how much ice I can put through there. So, like for instance, if I were to take this thing, I have this set to 4, so it'll shoot through 4 hydrogens, but it looks like we're, oh, whoops, there we go. So that'll take 4 ice, hydrogen things, whatever, and it'll crush it. That will go directly into our hydrogen over here, so we can see that hopefully going up. Unless that was all the hydrogen that we had. There we go. So now we can see the hydrogen going up in pressure, and then we can see our fuel here. We were at 6 megapascals and it dropped down to 1.8. And that's just because we put 10,000 into the ship there. So we got this thing running. And then, let's see. And then, so this is our oxide. And if it's brown, that means that it doesn't give off just the pure gas, right? There's usually some other gas in there. So I think with oxide, there's also a fair bit of nitrogen in there. So we'll get that running. We've got our nitrice. Now nitrice will give off nitrogen and nitrous oxide. It'll give off both. So we'll get that running in here. And then because I don't have the volatiles going into the brown line at all, it goes directly into the hydrogen line, because volatiles can only become hydrogen. They can't be anything else. There is no other gas that comes with it. So that's how I can get this to go directly into there and not really have to worry about it too much. And then we have water ice, which is going to give us liquid water and gaseous nitrogen. So once again, brown, because it does give off 2 gases, well, 2 things technically, but the gas that comes off is only nitrogen, so that's why it goes directly into the nitrogen line here. But I think we're actually fairly good on ice here, but I mean, we could run a lot of this and just get a lot of water in there if I need it. I don't think I need it, but it's possible we can do it. All right, so we'll do that. We'll do that. Throwing oxide and nitrice into there. And this is my pipe meter that tells me how much pressure I have in this brown pipe right here. And yeah, so we're slowly building that up. I think the max that I can handle in here, well, I mean, it can handle like 50 something, but I think 35 is right here. So I want to keep that below 35. And let's be honest, I'm probably going to run out of ice before I even hit that number. And then the nitrous oxide, which is in here, will get stored, or sorted, I should say. So we can get an idea of how much is in there right now. So we have oxygen, nitrogen, nitrous oxide, and liquid nitrous oxide. And then that is going into here. So any liquid that comes out of here will go into here. So it doesn't break the lines, because any liquid in a gas line will increase the stress, as you can see. But if we have a place for that liquid to go, like this, then it will go in here and reduce the stress on the line. So you can see the stress should start going back down again. So that's good there. And then as the pressure drops inside of here, I'm not sure if that's exactly how it happens, but the gas should travel back out. I don't think it does though, because those valves over here, the condensation and evaporation valves, they only allow a liquid to pass through. They don't allow a gas to pass through. So any gases that get trapped in here stay in there, unless the pressure in here increases to the point where whatever is in here turns back into a liquid, in which case it can then go back out through here and then, I don't know, turn back into a gas or whatever and then get sorted. So that's the purpose of that. That can hold quite a bit more, but we are at 1.34 megapascals, so I got to be careful about you know, I just want to make sure that thing doesn't explode, and then I also have to make sure that this thing doesn't explode, which is this pipe, if it'll let me look at the pipe. There we go. So 1.34, and once again, those can only handle 6 megapascals. So, now, once we have that, this unfortunately still has pollutant in there, which is why I made that other room, because, you know, I don't want to put pollutant into something that I want to have just straight nitrous oxide into. So I needed a way to sort of clean out these liquid canisters, because there's no easy way to do it. You can't just open them up and expect the gas to come out, because it doesn't work that way. As much as I would like it to, it doesn't. So like, for instance, right, if I were to take this and then open it, see there's 8 liters in there. Now there's nothing, right? And so all of the gas that was in there, plus all the liquid that was in there, is now in the room. And of course now, this thing probably has a lot of, yeah, and even doing that, I didn't get rid of the pollutant that was in there, right? So, kind of sucks, but now I have a lot of liquid nitrous oxide in the room, which is not great. So you can't just open those things up and expect just the gas to come out, because the liquid will come out as well, unless it's like water or something. The water might stay in there. Unless, of course, it was cold enough in here to where the liquid nitrous oxide stays in liquid form. But then again, you know, the odds of that actually happening are fairly low. So we're going to turn that off. We're going to turn this off. We're going to suck everything out of the room now. And that'll put all of that into here, which of course is going to increase the pressure on the pipes, which is not great, or increase the stress on the pipes. But it'll take all of the liquid N2O, and it'll suck it into this brown pipe right here, and then it can all get sorted again. So it looks like the stress is actually staying fairly low, and that's because I think most of that is probably going into here. Yeah, so you can see the liquid is going into here, and then also we are, you know, taking out, yeah, the nitrous oxide, filtering it, and then basically compressing it within here. So this acts kind of like a pump, right? So it'll pump into this small section of pipe here, and then as it condenses and turns into liquid, it'll then pass through here, which is now a liquid pipe, and it'll go into here. So that's kind of how all that works. And this is to make sure that the temperature inside the pipe, because this will get very hot. All right, it's at 155 right now. So this is what happens when you compress nitrous oxide, is everything gets really, really warm, right? Really hot. And so the idea here is to have this cool whatever is in here, which then reduces the pressure needed to condense the stuff, which then allows more of the liquid to pass through. So we should be at near, yeah, okay, so we're at a full vacuum now. So everything that was in the room, or in the atmosphere of the room, is no longer in there. So now we can turn this back on, we can turn this back on, and then we can turn this on to pump pure nitrogen back into the air. And then this is kind of like our pre-pressurizer, right? Because this will put out a lot of pressure very, very quickly. And then as we get closer to 50, which is where I'm keeping this at, that will kind of get us the rest of the way there. So purpose of this is just to flood the room with nitrogen with no control over how much pressure is in here. So this is strictly manual. So we're at 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. All right. So now, this will, once the pressure equalizes, of course, and then that's because it has to go like over here. So you see the pressure is a little bit lower over here versus, you know, where we were pushing it down at. And that's just because that's how the game handles all of this stuff. So 50.7, so it looks like it's equalizing a little bit. All right. So this right here is an overpressure control here. So this is a back pressure regulator. We have it set to 51 kPa, right? So as soon as the interior pressure in here, oh hey, we have a storm going. That's cool. As soon as the pressure inside this room exceeds 51 kPa, it'll take gas and it'll start shoving it into here, right? So this is what helps keep the room from getting too pressurized. And so this is our setup, cut off at 51. And then of course this one over here has it set to 50. So this will pump the room up to 50. And then this one will pump out of the room if it reaches 51. So it should keep the pressure right in between 50 and 51. Which is good because these walls here I think can only handle, I want to say it's like 200 kPa or 100 kPa, somewhere in there, 150. So if you exceed that pressure, the glass breaks, and because there is no control for this thing, it'll continue to pump out all of the nitrogen, which will then just escape out into the atmosphere, which is not great. All right, so that is slowly going down through all of this stuff. So all of that to say that we need a better way to handle liquids, right? And there's no easy way to do it. It just doesn't exist. That is 17,530, so we will swap that out. Let that one get up to pressure. Okay. Now, this gas right here, using as I'm using this as an atmospheric sink, I guess, for the liquid nitrous oxide. So when I take this thing, I'm basically doing the same thing in that little room over there as opening up this canister, right? So it just, all of it evaporates, or all of it just floods out of the thing. And yeah, and then you have gaseous nitrous oxide instead of liquid, which is not great. All right. I mean, we'll just put in some more of this, put in more of that. Okay. Hell, we might as well put in more of that too. So each time I hit this button, 4 stacks, so that's 200 ice, is going through and going into the crushers. And the reason why that's set to 4 is because I have 1 space here, 1 space here, 1 space here, and then 1 space in the crusher itself, right? So this will hold back the ice and hold it in here. It won't set it through until you open it. So I'm not counting that space. So we have 1, 2, 3, and the 4th space is in there. So 4 is the maximum that we can handle just inside of here. Now I can make this go to 8, and then it'll just continue to hold this open until we reach 8, and then it'll close again. So I don't know, just different ways of doing it, I guess. All right, so get some more hydrogen in there. Might as well get some more oxygen in there. Get some more of this in there. Get some more of that in there. Okay. Now take a look at this temperature here. Okay, so the temperature in here now, because I have these 2 radiators on here, is cold. Well, colder than 155, right? So what that does is it reduces the pressure that it takes to change the gaseous nitrous oxide into liquid nitrous oxide. So that means you get more liquid out of it, right? So now, because it pumped in more nitrous oxide, right? So that's why the temperature is spiking up again. But now the radiators are taking back over and dropping that temperature back down, which means that I need less pressure again to turn this into liquid. Now, if you watch the pressure in this pipe network, right, you'll see that when it does shove through some more nitrous oxide, the pressure is going to spike up, right? And that's because we're throwing more gas in there. But you'll see that on its own, the pressure then drops back down because it's taking the pressure from the gas as it turns into a liquid, and that reduces the pressure, which then, you know, I don't know, it's a balancing act. You just got to figure out the sweet spot for it. But it does work for the most part. Now we have 10 liters in here, which is fairly good, I think. So we'll get some more of that, get some more of that, get some more of that. Want to make sure that doesn't get too crazy. Want to make sure this doesn't get too crazy. Okay, so we have 15 liters in there. And then I want to make sure that this pressure is fine. Yep, and then stress on the pipes is still moderately low. Like this, there's no risk of this breaking at all. And you can see that the stress will eventually drop back down, and that's because more of the liquid here is, you know, doing its thing. Now, the liquid that is in here will stay in here, I think, until the pressure inside the pipe here, which is at 15 megapascals, reaches less than what's in there, which is 1.65, right? So it's going to take a little bit of time. This has to do a lot of work to go through and remove all of this stuff. So we're just going to give it some time. And then, how's this doing? Doing okay again? All right. And then why are we at... Okay, so it's at 25. Okay, so I think maybe it's just trying to heat up the room right now. But yeah, so it's doing its thing. It does work for the most part, so... Now, what I could do is take this canister over here and bring it over to my little room and then try to evacuate all of the nitrous oxide out of it that way. But, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and then whatever is in here will just continue to build up. It can handle a lot. Not like a lot, but, you know, decent amount. And then I'll try to explain how this room is intended to work. What the hell? Oh, rocket's back. Well, that's good. Okay, so now we get to see what happens when we run basically an evaporator, right? So what's going to happen... Well, first I have to get this all to kind of pressurize inside the room. We'll turn that off. Do I just want to put it into the whole room? Like I need like a way to control this from out here. I just don't have it yet. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to flood the room. All right, so that's going to increase the pressure inside of there. And then I need a heater. Okay, so we've got a fair amount of pressure, so that is all of that gas in there. So I had, what, 17,500? And in a 2-block radius, that is equivalent to about 34 kPa, right? And then we have our temperature here, but we need that temperature to be a lot higher. So we're going to turn on our wall heater, which will then increase the temperature. Now, we're going to need that temperature to go up quite a lot. And I mean like a lot. And then also what's happening is as this is heating up, it will increase the temperature inside of here, right? Now, that's not necessarily a good thing because, once again, as the temperature heats up inside of this canister, the liquid goes into a gas, which then increases the pressure. If I exceed 6, it explodes. Right. Now, odds are it's going to break the pipes here first, and it'll probably break that corner pipe down there. So what I have to do is sort of, I mean, I could open this up, right? And that'll take whatever's in here and it'll put into the room, right? Now, there wasn't much in here because the pipes broke, I think the time before last. So maybe there is something in here, but we're going to let that run for a little bit, and I'm going to get some food and water and power. All right, so nuclear battery, there we go. All right, we're going to head over here. All right, so there's that. Get a little bit of food going on. Okay, so now we're good to go. Okay, so temperature is still going up in here. And then I can explain what's going on in here as well. Okay, so we have our canister holder right here, which is immediately going to dump whatever is in here into these pipes, right? Now, this is where we get into the issue of, wait, no, that needs to be open, right? Yeah. Okay, so that is open. So whatever is in here will immediately go down into here, through here. This is just kind of how I close that off. And it will go out into this, which acts like a passive valve, or a passive, no, yeah, passive valve? No, passive vent for gas. It's just this one is for, excuse me, for liquid. I have hiccups. I don't know, it's just annoying. Okay. So I'm actually going to close this because I think as soon as I dump this in here, it's going to dump all of it in, which is not what I want. So I'm going to put this into here. Now that's immediately going to dump some of the volume out, right? And that'll hold it up into here, right? So it just immediately dumped out 4 liters. Now, if we watch this, you'll see that the pressure is increasing, right? And that's because it's collecting the heat from here, and it's turning some of that liquid nitrous oxide into gaseous nitrous oxide, which is why you see the nitrous oxide ticking up. Okay, so we need to make sure that even with whatever heat we have in here, we have to keep this below 6 megapascals, right? Because once again, if it hits 6, it explodes. We don't want that. And then if you'll notice that the temperature also slowed down. And that's because this is acting as like a heat sink, right? So you need a lot of heat to go into here to heat up this volume. So that's what slows down the overall temperature increase. Okay, now I'm going to show you what happens when you take a little bit of liquid nitrous oxide and you turn it into a gas, right? I want you to watch. Well, you can keep an eye on the pressure, I guess, if you want. But you're going to see that temperature drop very, very quickly. So we're just going to do this really, really quick. That's it. All right? And you see the temperature is dropping already. And that let through just the barest amount of nitrous oxide. So you can see the temperature is still dropping. It is still dropping. So this is not like an instant thing, right? So I have to keep the temperature in here above the point, and you can see the pressure is increasing a little bit, right? But that's because I'm putting in liquid nitrous oxide, which is then expanding into a gas, which then increases the pressure, right? So I have to make sure that the pressure stays below the pressure required to not break the glass, right? So I have to keep an eye on that. I also have to keep an eye on the temperature. So now we need to wait, and the temperature is still dropping, which is insane, right? Just that little tiny bit of nitrous oxide, and we were at, what, 55 when we dropped down to 42.4? And you see now it's starting to slow down, and we should start heating back up again. All right, so now temperature is going back up, which is good. Pressure is also going up, so we have to keep an eye on that. So we don't want to explode anything because we lose all of our nitrous oxide. Now you'll see that the filter in here is not on, nor is the active vent. And that's because I need all of the nitrogen that is currently in this room to stay in the room, because that's acting as a heat dump, right? So I'm using that to hold all of the heat created from this. That way it can offset the cooling made by the liquid nitrous oxide as it gasifies, right? Is it, like, this process is ridiculous. But this is what you need to do in order to handle liquid nitrous oxide, which, I mean, maybe there's a better way to do it that I haven't figured out yet, but this is the way that I have found that somewhat sort of works. All right, and so we're going to take a look at the pressure inside of here. So we're at 1.18. Now, you also have to remember that the pressure in here is about 20 times higher than the pressure inside that room, right? So as soon as I open that up, that's going to push all of that gas into this room. So that's why I have to make that thing go very, very quickly, because otherwise, yeah, all of the nitrous oxide goes into there, and then it drops the temperature down way too much, and then it starts freezing and breaking pipes, and it's not a good day for anyone. All right, so we're almost back up to 55, so I'm going to open this up again and dump a little bit more into there. Yeah, we're at 55 now, so we'll do that, bring it back up, and then we're going to watch the temperature drop. It shouldn't drop as much as the first time because we have less in here now, but it is probably going to drop it a fair amount, and plus we have all that extra nitrous oxide and other gases that we put in here, which are also now acting as a heat sink as well to hold all of that heat. So I think it went down to 43 before. We'll see if it reaches that again, but then we'll also have to keep an eye on the pressure in here. As soon as the pressure gets too high, we have to start collecting some of that into that right there. Oh, it actually did drop below 43. Okay, so we just need to wait for that to go back up again, and then we'll dump a little bit more into there. So this is just a long process, but this is the only way that I know of to clean these liquid tanks and get the gas out of them. Oh, and then I also have to be watching over here. Well, not yet, anyways, but eventually. So once I start running this thing, I have to be careful about how quickly I push everything into here, because that temperature and pressure in there, let's see if I can get it. Okay, so it's cool now because I've got the radiator on there, but that will get very, very hot and that pressure will go up fairly high. And why is there CO2, nitrogen, and oxygen in there? You gotta be kidding me. Okay. Well, that CO2, nitrogen, and oxygen is going to stay in there because it will not liquefy unless you get to seriously cold temperatures, right? And then we have 0.01 moles of pollutant in there, which I guess is fine. That's not really going to affect too much, I don't think. So the gases that are in there are just acting as pressure, right? So then as I put in more nitrous oxide, it doesn't have to increase the pressure as much because I've got those gases in there already. So I guess in a way it actually helps me out. And I think the reason why that happened is because I think that pipe burst at one point, and so whatever was in the room got sucked into there. So, and then the only reason, or the only way that the pollutant got in there is because the pollutant had to go into a liquid form to pass through that valve. That's the only way that could have happened. All right, how we doing? We going back up? Okay, good. And then once we have all of this liquid in here, this is gonna hopefully try to cool everything in here. So we should be, yeah, roughly even with the temperature inside the room. We do have an AC unit up there, which is going to keep the room at 0 if we have like an atmosphere in here, of course. And that was just to fill up the medium vent, or the medium radiator up there, because you need that to cool down the, I don't know, air conditioned gases, whatever. So yeah, there's that. Okay, so now we're back up to 55. All right, so we'll get that a little bit longer and we'll see that drop again. Pressure is going up again. And that's at 2 liters now. All right, looks like it's not dropping as low this time, only to 47, and it should start heating up again, which means that we've got enough volume in there to hold enough heat to keep it from cooling down too much. It says I need a air tank refresh. All right, so let's get that done. Okay, 11,000. Good. Okay, now the reason why this was able to fill up so quickly is because I've got this holding a fair amount of volume of oxygen. So this is pressurizing both this and this at the same time. So when I swap this out, whatever pressure is in there goes out and feeds this. So it fills up a little bit faster. And then we'll swap that out. And just because this is still at 13 megapascals, what are we at? I should probably put something in there to collect whatever's in there. I could probably just check what's in there. So yeah, so we've got 14 liters in there right now. Total capacity in just the pipes is 60 liters, so we're pretty good. Okay. Okay, so we're back up to 55 again. So we should be able to dump the rest of this in here now because I think we have enough volume of stuff in there to make this work. So that's going to cool down a bit, but it should be all right. So that is dropping. We're dumping all the rest of our nitrous oxide in there. And you can see the temperature isn't dropping crazily. If it drops below, well, at that pressure, if it drops below like 0, it'll start freezing the nitrous oxide, and then explosions and broken pipes. All right, now once, and you can see that temperature dropping quite a bit. We're at 70 kilopascals, so still within the range of the room. So I'm not really too worried about that. And then if I wanted to really protect this room, I could hook up a tank out here with some regulators in and out, kind of like how I did with the 50 and the 51 kPa inside the atmospheric room. Basically same thing here. I can keep the pressure inside the room at a certain pressure. Yeah, and it'll just work. And actually that might be a decent idea now that I think about it. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, so that dropped only to about 37, and then pressure in here is still at 143, so it should still be trying to push out. Okay, so that was it for all of that, and now we have just gas in there, which apparently doesn't like going through here. So now that I've got all of that kind of set up, I can open up this door, which is going to be interesting to say the least. That pressure is going to drop. Temperature is probably also going to drop because I'm increasing the volume. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so pressure dropped down a lot. And now the reason why I had to do that is because I need to turn these things on. Well, that I can control over here, but this I have to control manually. So we'll start turning this on. And then we'll turn on the active vent, and then that will start sucking through everything. Now this is where I have to start watching over here. I think I heard something just start to, yep, doing something. Something's breaking. What's breaking? Temperature is still high enough here. Oh, there's liquid in there. That's why. Okay. So that's terrifying. So the reason why that happened is because it sucked in some stuff into here, which then turned it into a liquid because it's increased pressure. Okay, so it's yet another thing that we have to worry about. As we're sucking this in here, we're increasing the pressure. As we increase the pressure, we increase the likelihood that it turns into a liquid. So that increased the, yeah. This is crazy. And that's why nitrous oxide is so hard to work with, because from liquid to gas to solid, I mean, none of it is conducive towards what we're trying to do here. Ooh, that's not good. And then I can only hope that the filter is fast enough to drain the nitrous oxide out of there, that it keeps the stress down. Now, is that taking damage? Yes. Right, so that one, maybe not so much, but that one is most definitely taking damage. So what I can do to fix that is kind of take that out. Whoops. You can go, well, first off, turn off. Go over here. All right. And then we'll just put it back, and it will have no damage. Right, so no damage now. Okay. Okay, and then we also have to keep an eye on what's going on over here. So that seems like it's fine. So this is just pumping whatever is in here into this section down here. And if you remember, it was at 9 degrees before, now it's at 60, right? And that's because we're compressing that nitrous oxide. And where did the oxygen and other stuff go? Oh, there we go. Okay. So now we can see the pressure is up high enough that it's forcing the gaseous nitrous oxide, even at 75 degrees, to turn into a liquid, right? And then as it turns into a liquid, it's increasing the stress on the pipe, but that liquid is immediately going through this condensation valve, which then forces it into here, and this can handle liquids. Okay. So we're gonna see if this thing's gonna break. Okay. And that should be pulling out the remaining in the atmosphere, which shouldn't do much of anything. Okay, and then whatever was not nitrous oxide is going to go into this brown pipe, and brown pipe, as you know, is waste gases that are not heated. So that connects in with the brown pipe network, and that's what all of that is doing. And then soon we should have a full vacuum in here. And then we have increased our liquid volume by about 8 liters. So this is the process that it takes to get gases out of a liquid canister. Fun, right? And then when I need to get this liquid back out, it's going to go through here. And this is just a volume regulator, so it'll fill up whatever pipe is or tank is in here to 50%. And then that will be what I use to carry from back and forth with the liquid nitrogen. So that's kind of what we got going on here. We should be at a full vacuum now. Okay, so now that is done, so we can turn that off. We can grab this back, and then we can turn this off, and that off, and that off. And then this should also be at 0, absolute 0 with nothing else in it. So we now have a clean liquid canister. All right, so that is the rundown of what I'm attempting to do with all of this stuff and the complexities thereof. And we are way over an hour, but I mean, it brings you up to current. So hopefully that you guys found that interesting or entertaining or informative, maybe. And then we get to see how much liquid nitrous oxide I have in here. 9 liters. Okay. And then do we still have pollutant in there? Of course. But very, very little. So I may be able to use this as sort of like my carrying thing, because that little bit of pollutant in there, I don't think that's going to do any damage. But that's going to be all I have for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, like I said, and if you did, hope you join me for the next one. But until then, have a good one.